Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the Heritage Arts Podcast. I'm Kayla, this is Tim, and we're the owners of Heritage Arts Co. in Minnesota. This is a podcast about art and handcrafts, and today we're going to be talking about knitting, watercolor, woodworking, and cross-stitching.
Welcome also to our first FLOSSTUBE.
FLOSSTUBE!
So...
This is something Tim didn't know about, I don't know, a month ago.
I was going to say 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
He had no idea. And I wasn't really too big a part of it, but here we are. First FLOSSTUBE, so let's tell them what that's about.
Yeah, well, first, we were going to do this podcast twice a month, the first and third Sunday of every month, and we just couldn't wait to share the news, so we decided to now move this to weekly every Sunday, or at least try to get it to be every Sunday.
Yeah.
So the news of my cross-stitching adventure is here. So here's FLOSSTUBE number 1, I guess, but our episode number 2. Yeah.
So who are you now?
So
he has a new alias.
Yeah, if you don't already follow me on Instagram, I am TheFlossDude. So you can find me on Instagram at TheFlossDude.
Yeah.
And follow along with my cross-stitching journey that I'm on. And so I got into cross-stitching. We kind of hinted at it last week in our first podcast that my wood shop isn't insulated or heated, and being in Minnesota, there isn't, too much.
Your time is limited.
Yeah. It might have been, 80s this week at the end of September, but I know that it's cooling down fast. Leaves are changing.
Yeah.
So I needed another hobby. We need any more hobbies. But I wanted another hobby to be able to, do something in the evenings to have on while we're either watching the Twins play or, I guess playoff baseball is coming up. Hopefully they don't face the Yankees, but something to do in the evening, watching TV, after we put our son down to bed, instead of going on my phone, do something productive. So I had cross-stitched when I was a kid, for our Awana Club, doing some craft projects for different badges and things like that. And so my mom had taught me some of the basics of cross-stitching years and years ago, and after that I just kind of didn't do it anymore. And I've always liked the look of cross-stitch. We have, there's a cross-stitch hanging up in our house right there. We have one hanging in our kitchen. I'm sure we have
one from each of our moms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's something that we really like. And when we were talking about doing a podcast, I was thinking, what other hobby could I do?
Yeah.
And so we just kind of tossed around some hobbies, and I tossed around cross-stitching because it's something that I had done before. So I picked it up and instantly fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Started, picking back up some of the things I had learned, realizing also how much I don't know. So,
and I'm no help with, really.
Kayla has cross-stitched, but
they've been short-lived adventures for me.
Kayla will get a little distracted by a squirrel
or yarn, more accurately.
Yeah. And set that down and move on to something else.
Yeah.
So I'll get into some of my whips and everything, but I actually should I start with my whip or should I start with my finished object?
I think you should start with your whip, because it tells a little about how you decided on cross stitch too.
So My current whip is a stocking for myself because Kayla was going to cross stitch this stocking for me and got distracted. So this whip here, this stocking, is by Stony Creek, the Christmas in the Woods collection. So I will be doing all of them, depending on how long the stocking takes and everything. My goal is to get it done by Christmas. It might be done Christmas morning. We'll see. I don't think it's going to be hung with care this year.
Might just be draped on the mantle.
So I was going to look at this before we started filming this, and I did not, on what the count of the fabric is and everything else. I guess I didn't.
You weren't an educated part of that decision because you weren't the one that started this project.
Yeah, and
I was.
And I'm learning everything about that. So we will put that probably in the description. Below all the things there are to know about this pattern. But Kayla did, if you can see kind of on the top, she did this top little border, probably 3/4 of this, and about 3/4 of this tree. So I've been working on this for about a week and a half.
And you've like tripled my progress.
Yeah, so it's coming along really well. I've already got a couple of the cardinals going, and some more of the tree and this tree.
It's looking beautiful.
I'm a outdoorsy person. I love being out in the woods, and so the pattern fits me perfectly. So really excited to continue working on this. If you head over to my Instagram, you'll see updates on this. I'll be doing that the rest of this year, hopefully only this year, but we'll see how long that goes. I mean, here's my thread card right now, and this is only probably 1/4 of the floss of the colors. I mean, these birds have, I think, 14 different colors in it.
Wow. I didn't realize
for
that.
2 red birds.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, you didn't pick the easiest pattern, but
I picked the best one.
You did, and I didn't pick the easiest pattern to start with, because when I go in on to something, I go all in. So it's already become a love of mine, and so that's the main whip.
Yeah, that's your big whip.
Yeah.
I guess a little further background about this kind of stocking running joke that we have. This pattern I picked out for Tim. I think it was the year that we got married. So
I think so, yes.
2016. And so that was when I did start it. Now, I gave it to him as, I gave him the pattern and said, hey, I'm going to make this for you.
Did you give it to me as a present too?
Yeah,
probably?
I did.
Yeah,
saying here's a future present. I think crafters know this well, that sometimes you give people here's the ingredients to the pattern of the thing I'm going to make you.
You didn't think you would also...
I didn't think I'd also be giving him all of the supplies to actually finish
Thanks
his
for
own
the
present
of the craft.
Yeah, exactly.
We just didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, crafts make great presents. You just didn't know it yet. Yeah. But it's kind of a longer standing joke on my side of the family, because my mom knit. She doesn't knit, but she does cross stitch. And she cross stitched herself a stocking. And then she cross-stitched her sweet baby girl a stocking. And then she never really did one for my dad nor my brother. So there's a lot of I guess projects that, it's the thought that counts, I guess. So this was just, I guess, fate that I would not finish a stocking either. But I'm really excited that Tim is picking this up and finishing it, and I think it's going to be just a really beautiful project. So I will probably be assisting in this final finishing and sewing of the stocking, perhaps. Although I also said, maybe I'll just ask my mom to do it because she's a much better sewist than I am. So we'll see. Like we said, it might not be hung with care, but it will probably be on display.
Oh, it'll be on display
for Christmas in some way or another. So, all right, we got interrupted by a phone call. I'm guessing it was a spam phone call because it
looked like
didn't have any name on it. Yeah. So, back at it. We were just kind of finishing up talking about this pattern and how excited we are for Tim to finish it. So, I think that is your only, that's your only cross stitch whip right now, right?
Yeah, at the moment. I mean, I can talk about my future whips right now.
Yeah, if you want to talk about some upcoming projects.
So, because this is so large, I'm not getting burned out on it, which is great. But I am a delayed
gratification.
Thank you. That word wasn't going to come out right.
I'm curious how it was going to come out.
Let's not try. So that is who I am. However, when it comes to cross stitching right now, seeing everybody else's smaller cross stitch works that they've done has been, I don't know, it's kind of made me a little jealous of everybody finishing things all the time. And I do have a cross stitch FO that I'll show a little bit later, but I thought, what's something that I could do also? That way I could have a little bit of that instant gratification.
Got it.
Right now. So I'm going to be making some Christmas ornaments. And we have a bunch of the hoops, some 3-inch hoops coming in a couple days. So I'll be starting some Christmas themed, smaller little, I don't know what you want to call them. Little
ornaments.
Little ornaments.
There's probably a better FLOSSTUBE approved word. I don't know all this terminology. So if you have a fancy name for whatever you'd be doing, little ornaments of
like little motif or
little,
I don't know. Put it in the comments below. Let us know so we don't sound
like idiots. We are, but that way we won't sound like it.
So I kind of want to design some of my own. I mean, I design my own woodworking things and designing my own stuff. And I mean, you enjoy designing some things as well. So that's just kind of who we are. I know I'll be probably taking advantage of that book up there. If you saw on my Instagram, I've showed that a couple times, I think now already. I think it's 2000. What does it
2001.
2001.
Was that
cross
the
stitch patterns?
Or was it something clever like that? Yeah. Maybe.
So that's from Better Homes and Gardens, and there's a ton of Christmas stuff in there. So I'll probably steal. Well, not steal. We own it, but I'll probably take some of the patterns out of there and design some of my own. Possibly buy some from the wonderful people that I'm following now too, who are
discovered
so
a lot of
creative.
Really cool designers.
So that's what I'm going to be doing. We'll see how many Christmas ornaments get made and other little things that I make too along the way. So excited to start sharing all of that as well. You'll be seeing it on this podcast as well as Instagram.
Yeah. So this just brought to mind in the knitting world, when you are someone who works, pretty much just on one project at a time, you're often called like a monogamous knitter. And I think that's kind of what you set out to be with this.
I really
And
did.
then you realized that, yeah, you just wanted something that had a little quicker payoff, which I totally get. I mean, I think a lot of knitters tend to have a couple whips going at a time. For me, it's always different for kind of different purposes. Like I like to have a bigger project for home and a smaller project for like in my purse when I used to go out places. But you know, I like having different projects for different moods or different settings. And so I think that you're going to really enjoy having a little more variety in what you're working on. So,
well, when my first real pattern that I took on was an extremely large pattern with a ton of detail. I don't think I really realized at the time how much I bit off.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. So I think that'll be great though. So do you want to finish up with your other whip? Your woodworking.
Oh, my woodworking whip.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I will. So, like I said in our last podcast, I made our bed and now I'm making the nightstands to match. So I've been working out in my shop every evening after work, trying to get as much as I can done while the weather's still nice. My goal has been to complete construction on it so I can stain it and put a coat of polyurethane on this weekend, as it's supposed to be really nice. Mm-hmm. When I was out in the shop tonight working on it, I realized that might not happen. I have quite a bit left to do on them. We'll see. I'll post a picture here showing where I am, and if I want to edit this again, we'll see if I get it done in time or not. So we'll see if I did it or not.
Okay.
But probably not.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that's my last whip right now.
Yeah. Well, actually, do you want to go to your FO and then I'll pick up my FOs?
Sure. So my FO is a cross stitch FO. It's the cross stitch that I picked up when I wanted to test if I liked cross stitching again. So I shared it on my Instagram post, I don't know, sometime this week. And it's this little pumpkin, little jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think I did it in like an afternoon.
Yeah, I want to say you finished it like in a single day, which must have been the afternoon.
Yeah, I got it from the Better Homes and Garden 2001 cross stitch patterns.
Yeah.
And so
just did a
little jack-o'-lantern there, and it was a lot of fun. I haven't finished anything off on the back obviously yet, just kind of put it on our stack of crafts so far.
Stack of crafts.
But yeah, just when I did this, I knew that I had found something that really clicked for me. So
well, we talked about too, so you really love doing puzzles in the winter.
Yeah, I am a puzzle freak.
Yeah.
And
I think freak is the right word, because the pace at which you finish puzzles and like the intensity with which you puzzle, and
I'll almost give myself a headache doing a puzzle because I'm so intense at it.
And just like the clear-mindedness of like, you will just like go for a piece and know exactly where it goes. And
how else do you do a puzzle?
I don't know.
Like, why pick up a piece if you don't know where it goes?
Well, yes. Okay. Some of us are less skilled.
I do them freakishly fast.
Yes. Yeah. So you love doing puzzles, but yeah, you wanted something that was a little more, I don't want to say productive, but like that actually you kind of had something that you would keep from it.
Yeah.
And so I think that stitching, cross stitching, and puzzling kind of have some, I don't know, you think in the same kind of way, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I look
plays
at
to your strengths.
I look at each cross that I do as kind of a puzzle piece, and when you're following the pattern, you're looking, make sure you're going in the right order, and I see a lot of similarities with puzzling.
Yeah, it has that same kind of satisfaction of seeing it come together. I think.
Yeah.
So
I mean, looking at a pattern's like looking at the box and seeing where everything goes. I don't know. It has really clicked with me. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And I don't have to tell most of you. I mean,
right.
Most of you cross stitch as well, or at least hobby and craft in those in similar ways. And so glad to be a part of this community now. Yeah,
it's been fun seeing you connect with people and discover, new podcasts, new designers. So
learning now, I've been reading up on all the different materials that you can use, and single threads and double threads and all this. I don't know near enough. I'll be learning as I go.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll look back on this podcast someday and think, what a goon who didn't know anything. So you will.
Maybe you're already thinking that.
And maybe you can, drop some comments below so I don't fall into some pitfalls that maybe some of you guys have fallen into. So I'll take any advice, I've tried some French knots and they have not turned out well. I've watched several YouTube videos to help and still not the greatest at them.
Don't have quite the touch yet.
If you know of a good video to look at, drop that in the comments below. I'd love to check them out.
Yeah, great.
So that's enough of me, I guess, for now.
The FLOSSTUBE.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will shift over to my FOs now. As I mentioned on the last podcast, as we've mentioned, we have a 4-month-old. Well, he's almost 5 months now.
4 and a half.
4 and a half. I don't know. Some people go by weeks, and they're like, my son is 48 weeks old. We can't keep track of that. So
we go by months.
4 or 5 months old.
Yeah.
So I don't finish a whole lot. So I've been sharing my kind of archive of finished objects for maybe the last year. So last week I shared this shawl, the river shawl, that I knit for myself, and that was using the Madeline Tosh DK Antique Moonstone, and that kind of really, really beautiful blue with those kind of brownish tones, and then the white. And I had mentioned that was actually leftover yarn from a project that I knit for Tim a while back, and that was the vest by Church Mouse Yarns and Tees, called His Vest. So it's his vest, and it was also his vest. And so this is the vest. Tim can maybe hold it up to him.
I wore it last week. It was cool last week, and I wore it to work the day I actually went into the office.
Yeah. So, so this is all in the Madeline Tosh, obviously, and this was my first, I'd say, really serious garment project, and it was my first seamed garment. It's knit from the bottom up, and then knit flat from the bottom up, and then it's seamed together on the sides and on the top shoulders. And so that was a big learning experience for me doing that, but I was so happy with how it came out. And it was just a really wonderful, easy pattern to follow. And I think from what I've heard about the Church Mouse Yarns patterns is that they all tend to be very comprehensive. Everything that you need to know is going to be in this pattern. You're not going to have to go searching for a a stitch tutorial or anything like that, like it is going to be in the pattern, which as a tech editor, I love. I'm always encouraging my designers to include as much information as possible. And so, for indie designers, that's not always easy to, have a really big publication like maybe Church Mouse does, but I'd always encourage them to be pointing towards their favorite tutorials and things like that. So, so great pattern to work from for his vest. But the other part of this that is fun is, number one, that it matches my shawl. If you want to bring that up, I'll peek out. So it matches my shawl. But I also then used a little bit of this yarn on a test knit last year that I did for Fiber and Fern of the Louisville bonnet. And so it's this really, really sweet little bonnet with this beautiful stitch texture. And this bonnet I mentioned last time I knit actually before we were pregnant. But we kind of knew that it would hopefully be soon. So I knit this not really with myself in mind, but then I guess maybe a month or two later, I knew that it would be for our little one. So so we kept this as to be kind of a going home outfit along with this little onesie that my mom had given us. So it just happened that they kind of matched. Can you hold something for me? It just happened that they matched perfectly, which was really sweet. And then another little tiny finished object that I have lost track of. Oh, two tiny finished objects. Tiny, tiny little socks. So these were knit out of the Stroll Tonals from Knit Picks. And this is the Perfect Newborn Sock by, I think it's Tabitha Gandy, but we'll put it in the down bar or the show notes.
Might have been perfect for some newborns.
Might have been perfect for some newborns. And it would have been so perfect. Hold this up again. So perfect. These little socks, this little hat. It all matches so perfect. But our son was born with ginormous feet. And these did not even come close to fitting. But they were so cute. And we did use them in our pregnancy announcement.
They probably wouldn't even fit on his big toe.
Yeah, I know. They're tiny and precious. But he was born with some big feet. So he did not wear those, but we did keep them. And then also because we didn't find out, the gender, we left that to be a surprise for the birthday. I had also knit up just a tiny little bow that I was going to put on the hat, on the bonnet, if it was a girl, but it wasn't. So I just have the bow. But given the fact that, these didn't fit Noah, maybe if number 2 is a girl, then we got these.
And doesn't have ginormous
feet. Who knew? So that was that. Those are kind of my little archive FOs. We have our whole little family outfit that only 2 of us fit into anymore. So that was my FO. The other FO is also one that was for our son for his nursery. And do you want to hold that up? So I knit a little mobile. These little guys are the Wee Woodland Wuzzies pattern from on Ravelry. I don't remember the designer, but we'll note that below. So these are just the sweetest little stuffed animals. This is my first time knitting anything that's kind of toy-like. So we have a little squirrel, a little mouse, a little bear, a little fox, and a little hedgehog. You can kind of see his little spines, little hedgehog, and little bunny with, a bunny with a cottony tail. A woolly tail.
I was going to say, is it cotton
it's actually,
or is it wool?
It's wool. So it's
a
a woolly
tail.
So I'll be sharing these on my Instagram. I'll be sharing a little closer up photo of all the little creatures, but that's the mobile that we put on his crib. He really has, you can just set it. Okay.
I'll set it over here.
Okay. He really loves it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean we don't have any fancy kind of spinny thing on it, but we'll just kind of like bounce it around or spin it, and
he goes nuts.
Which is super fun to see him enjoying that. So that was one of my one of the things I finished in kind of the last weeks before he was born, and definitely makes me want to try knitting him some more toys when time allows, but we'll see. So those were my FOs. Going back then to my whips, same as last week, but I have made some progress. So maybe I'll start with my Yarn Cozy Light, which is getting caught on something. Okay, my Yarn Cozy Light. I did all of 3 more rows, guys.
Nice.
3 more rows. And this is where you learn that once you have children, your expectations for yourself really change. So 3 rows, super exciting. I do want to finish this fairly soon, just to get it off the needles. But yeah, so that was my minuscule progress on that. But I did make some better progress on my faux set sweater. And oh no.
Now it's less progress.
That's less, no, it's fine. So I got to the point on this sweater where I now am working in just one color. For the last time I showed it, I had all 3 colors that I was still working for one of the stranded color work sections. So now I'm to just one color. I'm working just the charcoal coming on the bottom here. Oops. And you can start to see that. It's a little hard right now, but so this charcoal here is gonna continue down for the majority of the body. And so I'm working that. So it is nice to be working from just one color. However, because it's hand-dyed yarn, I am working with alternating skeins. And so I was kind of explaining this to Tim before that with hand-dyed yarn, because it is unique in how the dye sits on different parts of the yarn, you can sometimes end up with kind of chunks of color depending on how it knits up, depending on the circumference of what you're knitting, or going back and forth. So you can end up with kind of chunks of color that you might not want. Some people don't mind them, but I'm not really a huge fan of that look of kind of this color pooling or color blocking. So I'm alternating skeins, and I'm doing so with the helical method. So if you're familiar with that, or if you're not familiar with that, you don't need me to explain. If you're not familiar with that, though,
I am
not. Which Tim is not. Helical knitting is where you go kind of one round at a time, but the rounds are chasing each other. So you stop maybe 3 stitches before you switch skeins. It's super hard to explain unless you're literally showing it. So I think if you look, Knitting Addie recently did a helical knitting tutorial. So maybe we'll link to that below, because I'm sure she will do a good job, a much better job explaining it than I will. So I am alternating skeins, doing helical knitting, going around. Still, I'm not sure whether I'm cropping it or not. We will just leave that to the yarn's discretion with however much yarn I have left. So yeah, I'm really happy with the progress on that. I guess, so since last week, I probably knit maybe, I had finished off right about there. And so I've knit, maybe 1.5 inches or so, which on a sweater body, not bad.
With a 4-month-old.
Yeah, not bad.
And a job.
Yeah. So, so that was good. I did a little bit. I did a decent amount of knitting while I was on the Zoom knitting group with some people at my organization this week, and so that was fun to kind of have a little bit of that knitting community again. So so I worked on that. Worked on my yarn cozy, and those are my whips currently. But like I said, I am wanting to get the yarn cozy off the needles soon because I'm kind of itching to start a sock because it's fall, and
you
I
do
love
have
cozy socks.
One more whip.
Oh, I do have one more whip. Yes. Okay. This is not a knitting whip. This is the watercolor whip that I talked about last week, that I am working on a watercolor home portrait. And so right now I'm just in the process of transferring my sketch to the final watercolor paper.
See how that comes in.
So we'll just come up close. Yeah. So it's very much kind of in progress. I have it on my bright pad, and then I have my initial sketch below. And so I kind of transfer it to the final paper, the watercolor paper, like that. So I'm really, really happy with how it's coming together. It's looking really beautiful. So it's a very cute historic home, and I'm really excited to keep painting on it. So next week it will be an FO, and I'll be able to show it off in full color. Are
you completing that this weekend?
That was the plan.
Okay.
We'll see. That's life with a 4-month-old is. We'll see. But that's been really fun to work on. So that's kind of my other main craft and hobby is watercolor. So you'll see, some of that is mine back there, some of that is friends' work, but that's kind of just one of my other more predominant hobbies of all the hobbies. So that was that. I don't know exactly what I'll be doing for that upcoming sock. Might just be a plain vanilla sock, or maybe just a little bit of texture. I don't even really know what color I want to do yet, but I've got some yarn in the stash that I'm gonna dig through. So I don't have a big stash, but
yeah,
I don't. When you see it,
you really don't. You had a much larger stash.
I did, yeah.
And garage sales and other things you got rid of.
Yeah, I got rid of.
Which, surprisingly, I'm happy that you got rid of all of that stuff. I mean, you got some of the. I'm happy in that you got rid of some of the, I guess, lower quality.
Yeah,
yarn,
I really don't. I don't like knitting with acrylic yarns at all. I try not to be too precious about it, and or snobby about it. I don't want to think of myself as a yarn snob, but I have realized over the last couple of years that I really don't enjoy working with it, and so there was a lot that I destashed and just kind of got rid of in the last couple of years.
Like I said, I've been happy about that, because when you're knitting, you are always more happy when you're knitting with the yarn you like.
Yeah.
And to keep something just to have the color.
Yeah. I don't think, or just to have, just in case. And I ended up wasting a lot of time knitting things I didn't really like.
Yep.
And not enjoying the fiber I was working with. So I'm sure we'll talk about this more later, but kind of how my fiber preferences have evolved and how they're still evolving too. So that'll be fun to talk about too. But I don't have a huge stash, but It is fun. Sometimes I just come down here and I just kind of open it up and just sort through. And this is the office where Tim works during the day most of the time. And so there's been a couple times where I've just come down and I start digging through my Rubbermaid bin where I keep all my yarn. And he's like, "What you doing?" "Oh, just looking, just checking up on my yarn.
Just squeezing.
Just squeezing and sniffing yarn." Yeah, sometimes I just like to check up on it, make sure I remember everything I have. And even though I have it all in Ravelry, it's, it's a fiber. So you like being able to touch it and feel it and see what you want to work with next. So, yeah.
All right.
There we are. I think that is kind of all we have to talk about today. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
No? You want me to end it?
Yeah. End it. Wrap it up.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be back now every Sunday to talk more about all things handcrafted. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Also, make sure you turn the bell on so you're notified when we upload our next podcast. You can find us on Ravelry, Instagram, and our website at heritageartsco.com. And we'll include, links to everything in the description below. And again, you can find my new Instagram at TheFlossDude.
Yeah.
So keep on crafting.
Thanks for watching.